Let me ask you a question. And this just occurred to me, genuinely, and I thought, let me make a video about this. And this is a bold question that I'm gonna ask. I'm gonna go there. I've been called here all day, and I suppose you could say that it took me all day to kind of figure out how to word this message in a way. And the question, like I said, a little heavy. And it needs airing, or else I wouldn't be sitting here giving the message. What do you think that the most addictive, I'm putting drug in quotations, what do you suppose that the most addictive drug in the world, in the universe is maybe even, I hope not, at least on our planet Earth, what do you suppose that that is? And in fact, just for comedic value, comment below what you imagine that that is. What would you imagine that the most addictive thing on Earth is? And I'm going to tell you what I think. I think it's dreams. What I mean is, and here's where it gets dangerous, because as you guys know, I'm in the field of spirituality and otherworldly, paranormal, whatever places you want to go with it, right? The extraordinary, supernatural, really just very, very natural people and things. At any rate, what has occurred to me, I guess you could say, or it has been downloaded perhaps into me to share. And it really, I am genuinely still reeling from an experience which I do have a video about, and I will edit and be putting together, about essentially a very surreal experience that I had recently, which made me question my actual sanity. No joke. Though I do often joke here, and yes, this is typically a comedic channel, not today. Okay, so I would say, if you asked me, having witnessed what I witnessed today, which again, I'm still sort of reeling over the fact that that was, as I say, if I said it here, it was a surreal experience. I don't think it's something I will ever forget, in point of fact, because it was so surreal. It was so much like watching a movie, but we'll save that story for the future video that I'm editing, whatever. Wow, loaded though. And so what I want to say is and this is a view I'm offering you. You do not have to take this on board. You can take it or leave it. However, I will say that I think that in the times that we're in, how to say this carefully, well, where there is more of, shall we say, a very deliberate, almost clashing between light and dark forces, very much parallel, very, shall we say, publicly, although that's a weird word to use here in this context. Like, what I mean by that is light and dark is kind of on showcase almost every single day in the extremes, as what I'm seeing anyway in the world. So I would argue that perhaps the most, how to say this, the most addictive and dangerous currency, which again, I would argue is perhaps the most addictive drug, is people's dreams. And I don't know if I have articulated this yet or accurately enough. However, the point I'm basically making is that someone out there found or finds a way to monetize and manipulate people's dreams, by which I mean essentially wave a golden dangling carrot in front of people. And by that dangling carrot, I mean literally offer them their dreams on a platter. The only catch is it's not reality. Again, I repeat my previous, statement or question. What do you think the most addictive drug or whatever in this world is? And I am beginning to believe that it's people's dreams, because what I have witnessed in a form of spiritual manipulation, which again, a story for a whole other video, which I will at some point evidently be making. I've just watched power be manipulated, and I've watched people's dreams be used to manipulate them in every possible way that one can be manipulated on Earth, meaning mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. Unfortunately, can say that I have seen all of those facets, and I think those are also just like aspects of our mind as well, right? I have genuinely witnessed someone take advantage of all of those things and do what they do best, which is sell, and essentially sell someone on, again, their dreams, which is something that no one can take away from you. No one can change because our dreams are individual to us. And my guess is that your dream that you have in your head for your most ideal life is not the same as what my dream for my most ideal life for me is, right? And we're here to have those individual experiences and expressions. And I ask you this too. If I didn't put the beginning part as a question, I would ask you this. Oh, I don't even know which question to ask. This is so loaded. One of the questions is like, well, what do you value more? You know, your actual dream being created in actual, tangible, touchable reality? What's more valuable to you? Achieving your dreams in a virtual reality or achieving your dreams in the actual outside world? And I'd invite you to give that some very real thought, because honestly, in the age of where AI is getting so spooky that it can replicate people doing things that they haven't even done anywhere. That even, I don't know if you're not aware of this, if you're not a creator or whatever, it's actually a setting, if you happen to create anything with any AI, you basically have to disclose this within the container, whatever, of your video. You have to say, hey, yes, I'm doing this. It's monitoring very clearly like how much people are depending upon this. Well, I got to be careful what to call it, I suppose. Respectfully, conscious robots. And I say that with respect. However, it's like crazy that that's a thing we're actually talking about in 2025. Robots having souls and AI being a very, like, almost nearly literally conscious thing, right? If I'm kind of scared to actually say that, if that's a real thing, regardless, right? I think it's a very dangerous avenue if you're willing to how do I even say this? It's like crazy, right? Because you guys know my mission is to encourage you guys along your dreams, to follow your dreams, to follow your joy, your passions, these things. And what I witnessed today was literally an example of someone selling to all the aspects of like human psychiatry, like selling to the heartstrings of people and playing up on their emotions instead of their logic and reality. And while there's a time and a place for that, that wasn't it. And really leading these people after this dangling golden carrot, which it's just insane. It's like, yes, we can give you your dreams. The only catch is it's virtual. And I just can't help but think about movies I've seen or scenarios that are so post-apocalyptic. And I don't say that with a sense of like, oh, yay, post-apocalyptic. That would be a cool environment. Look, it's cool in a game. It wouldn't be cool to live it. We like the trees. We like the nature, the green. And trust me when I say, if you don't already believe that our world, if it didn't have any green and any plant life, would be so much more dismal and sad. It would be like a desert, like something you'd see in, like, I don't know, Dune. And we ain't living on that kind of planet. We're living on Mother Earth, and she wants to be green and vibrant. At any rate, I invite you to seriously give some thinking to intentional thinking to, well, anyone, but particularly in spiritual spaces, to be very careful of, well, one, who you're sharing your dreams with. Really, if you're gonna share them, which I'm not necessarily an advocate of, like, loudly proclaiming, for example, our dreams to the world, because that has a tendency to stifle them, because it takes the energy immediately out. It's as if you took a full balloon and you let all the air out all at once, rather than, if it's a helium balloon and you want to think back in the day, other than letting it go in your voice, doing something fun with the air or whatever, I don't know, letting it slow release is what I'm trying to say. I think it's very dangerous to offer people their dreams on a virtual platter and say, yeah, we can grant you all of that. All you have to do is donate all of your life force energy to us and our virtual creations. I think that's a very dangerous place for spirituality to go, especially if, you know, earning approval, if you can say it, in that virtual situation and getting, let's just say there's a currency that you can acquire by doing good deeds. And that is wild. And to me, all I could see, and it's not my filters, that's what's crazy this time. This is me from an outside perspective seeing all this. I think it's very dangerous. You got to be careful who you tell your dreams to. And as I say, I'd say keep those dreams close to your heart and be very few and far between with who you actually share that with. Because, again, unfortunately, most people out there, not all of us, thankfully, you know, for example, you guys here and some clans that I know, I'll call them, thankfully are working for the light. However, of course, with that, there is our folks that work for the dark to keep this planet dense. And as y'all know, I'm here as a steward of the planet. I have called myself an earth angel in the past, and I didn't mean in the ethereal sense of I have wings and I fly. No, like I'm here to protect and take care of the earth, a literal steward in that sense. So without getting any more rambly about this, I really encourage you to be protective of your dreams and intentional with the energy of those dreams, and to keep that holy and sacred to yourself for exactly this reason. Because if the, shall we just call them broadly, negative forces for spirituality, if they're able to pull on the strings of your dreams, holy cow, I genuinely watched people try to monetize and gamify life in a way by saying, here, we can make your dream life happen. It's just virtual. So you want to support that though, right? Because you want to make your dreams into a reality. Virtual reality. And again, I'm going to remind you, I'm a steward of the earth. The earth is outside this screen where you're watching me right now, and which even the one that I am making this on, the one that I transmit my messages, you know, and things from the universe to you, or from the trees and the plants to you, or the animals to you. Despite all that, I'm also, as you know, an enthusiast of going outside and literally connecting to the very tangible nature. And I think, as I've said many times in this video, it's a very dangerous game to play where people could potentially end up spending more of their waking life, actual real life alive time, which is limited on Earth and we don't know how much we have, in a world which isn't even tangible. I think that's actually crazy to me. And I'm a gamer, as you may have heard me say. I am all for realistic environments, immersive experiences. Oh my God, they're experiences. They're not a permanent state of existence that we should be living in. If you didn't learn that lesson within the ice that was the pandemic, allow me to share that the messages were not supposed to be isolated. People and their consciousnesses begin to break down because we're meant to be connected together. And frankly speaking, anyone trying to tell you that you should be isolated or you'd be better off alone, or, and this is the dangerous part I heard, that you will be more connected with the press of a button via technology, somehow you'll actually be real life more connected. That's a dangerous game, which I personally wouldn't play. And that was the question that this whole scenario had me wondering was, what about the actual karma though of this whole scenario? So I hope that this video has encouraged you to think some and to be particularly careful with your energy and that the dreams that you have, to keep them sacred. If you do know someone who needs to hear this particular message, please do share it with them. That really helps me out. Subscribe, as that directly helps me out as a content creator. And if you don't know, it's free. And last but not least, if you, my beautiful spirit soul, need any support or coaching, please don't hesitate even for a second to reach out at this email address, where it would be my pleasure to help you in an actual, tangible way, to serve you in whatever way I can. Have a beautiful and a blessed rest of your day or night. Protect your energy. Namaste. Much love. And stay healthy. Bye. Because it's not an actual drug. You are, as you may have heard me talk about in this one experiment with rats that they did, one had a lever that would, the main point is they had a lever they had access to, these rats, and every once in a while something, a reward of cheese would drop down, but it was inconsistent. And that was the whole thing about, I forget what it's called, inconsistent or something, intermittent reinforcement, which basically builds for a really strong addiction. And that is why I wanted to make the video, because of actual real life karma. Oh, how to say this carefully. Oh, I have to be careful. I can't use the real words. I'm getting about this. However, needed to also need both, but you know, and here's where it gets dangerous. In the universes, maybe even, I hope not. Because as you guys know, I'm in the field of spirituality and otherworldly, paranormal, whatever places you want to go with it. Now I sound like a real crazy person, so whatever, that's my cue. A story for a whole other video, which I will at some point evidently be making. This is so loaded. I think that's a very dangerous place for spirituality to go. What's more valuable to you? It's cool in a game. It wouldn't be cool to live it. Other than letting it go in your eyes. It was a surreal experience. I'm here as a steward of the planet. We're meant to be connected